I was born in the border town of Gallup, New Mexico. I went to school and was raised in Tohatchi, New Mexico. My mom had the fortunate outcome of getting a job as a teacher, and my dad was a uranium miner. For 5 years prior to my birthday, after my sister was born, things were looking up. My dad became a stay-at-home dad and my mom worked in the community of Tohatchi. Both of my parents were raised in poor conditions. My mom's family was fractured. My dad's dad died when he was a preteen. Both went to boarding schools. My grandparents on both sides experienced a similar type of upbringing. Their lives had both happy times with much hardship and discrimination from non-natives. They went through so much in their young lives. That is just one insidious issue that persists near reservation border towns and on reservations. My sister went through troubled times after the death of her teenaged boyfriend in middle school. He committed suicide. It affected her in the years to come. She got into alcohol early. She didn't hold academia in high regard and the school officials labeled her harshly and even had the fucking balls to expel her. My dad pleaded for her to be reinstated as a student because we didn't have the resources to drive to Gallup for school every day. Ugly. She got back into school, and had to face the humiliation of being labeled as a rather delinquent student. My sister also had the attention of boys at school and this persisted into adulthood. In spite of being raised by a loving family, she was falling through the cracks. To this day, we just don't know where we all went wrong. It's probably the societal impact of being on a reserve that affected her. We both graduated from high school, and we both attended college. We were both in the dating scene of the reservation. It wasn't healthy because the boys, men had behavior and expectations different from what we expected, having been sheltered as kids. All our friends and people we dated had broken families. And because they had broken families, I feel the kids had drastically different levels of empathy. Some care too much, and some care too little. There's so much to discuss here and I could write a whole book on it. My sister got involved with men who abused her. There is a high chance of that happening on a reservation. My dad, having been in that environment himself as a kid, tried to stop it happening. My mom did. They didn't know how to deal with it. On top of that, my sister's abusive boyfriend moved in after I left to college and wreaked havoc on my family's balance. My parents became withdrawn. My sister was more attached to my dad more than my mom, who was somehow always the disciplining parent. Things were out of balance. This is 10 years ago and it went on for almost 6 years. My sister graduated with an AA in business admin. We were so proud. My family, however, was confused that she listed her friends as priority one at the grad party. Unbeknownst to us, her ex-boyfriend and his cousin that she'd begun dating, were both set to attend. My mom banned the cousin because she knew of his background. Things were just duck. My sister had her own life going on, but the people she had as friends were not trustworthy and were involved in heavy partying and were apt to get into trouble with cops. My sister even got her car towed once, and her friend was arrested for being intoxicated at the wheel. I had to help bail the car out. After my sister left that boyfriend who moved in with my family, she began dating his cousin, who was in a gang and had a long record of abuse and a stint in prison for DUI that caused life-changing bodily harm to locals. My sister mysteriously ended up dead in an arroyo after a year, south of Gallup, in another rural part of the res. Her car she owned was found in a tow yard. The FBI are investigating it as a homicide. It's been 3 years. No answers. Me and my entire family are still grief-stricken. It changed our lives and our outlook. I now get the sense of being the only kid, though I'm now an adult and I feel lonely without my sister. It wasn't my choice to go it alone in life. If I don't have a boyfriend or a husband, I have no one to lean on emotionally if my parents pass away. I have aunts and cousins, but I was the closest to my sister and I preferred her company. I moved to Wa State 2 years after the homicide ordeal happened. I now hate living on the reservation. I tried to live in Gallup. I hated it. It was as if I saw my sister everywhere. My sister had died after I graduated college, in the middle of my first year as a teacher. It affected my teaching. I had more empathy and worked very hard to convey to students that we need to have caring in our community for each other. I cried in front of my students more than once. After 2 years of teaching on the res, I resolved to teach somewhere else. I have a lot of heartache. My parents live there still, and I love them, but I feel complicated about all of what happened. Where did things go so wrong? I have questions I don't have answers to, like would things be different if my parents raised us in Albuquerque or even just Gallup? Would my sister be alive now? I am dating someone in the tech industry and he provides for me whilst I work and live life. He's not native, and I don't care much about what the native issues are, like intermarriage and having kids with native men. I care about my culture, but this has affected me to where I don't want to procreate. I just work to bring these issues to light and to continue searching for answers. I'm a writer and a teacher. It's all about healing and coping. My sister's death killed my spirit. I'm sure it was a native-on-native crime. I have my suspicions. Because of this, I feel I trust almost no one from my tribe. Forget the romantic notions of belonging to a tribe. It's not all what it seems. Once someone from your tribe turns on you and hurts your family so deep, the feeling of belonging and safety is gone. And when it happens over and over, you feel worse and worse. Now I know why tribes banished criminals from our homelands and why we have sacred ceremonies, and why everything became so broken when we were colonized by white people. These might be universal issues to colonized people worldwide, but it's not fun. I cringe at wannabe natives in the media. No one knows what being Indian is truly like. It's complicated and even painful because in some form or another, the issues of the reservation we live on catch up and overtake us, whether it's domestic abuse, alcoholism, drunk driving, and any other insidious problem that pervades our society. I feel I have to be far away from my culture to appreciate it, because I hate seeing local familiar faces that remind me of what I lost. I felt like I wanted to get lost in the big city, and that's where I found myself. I love it.